My name is Megan. I'm a data specialist. I've been with DataStream for about 2 years, so I definitely didn't know about it 10 years ago. And I'm calling today a few blocks north of Lake Ontario. I'm in Toronto, so I'm really happy that I was able to join virtually today, and thank you for inviting me. I'm kind of excited to hopefully teach you a little bit about what we do, and then get you a little bit more familiar with the platform in case it could be of use to you in the future. So yeah, I'll get started. Okay, so start off, what is DataStream for those who might not know? What was just said, DataStream Initiative is a registered Canadian charity dedicated to advancing freshwater protection through open data flows. So ultimately, our mission is to promote knowledge sharing and collaboration across sectors. And that's kind of our ultimate goal. So where did we start? So yeah, we started actually in the north in the Mackenzie River Basin. So before DataStream was an independent charity, it was actually a program of something called the Gordon Foundation. And the Gordon Foundation is a 60-year-old Canadian charity dedicated to protecting Canada's freshwater and to empower Canada's north. So a while back, the government of the Northwest Territories was talking to the Gordon Foundation about their plans to develop a new water strategy for the territory. And they identified a great need of theirs was to make water data more readily accessible so they can make better decisions. And they also wanted to create a community-based monitoring program as a pillar of this water strategy. So Gordon Foundation and the government of the Northwest Territories joined forces, and that's when Mackenzie DataStream was born in 2016. And it was at that time just supposed to be a kind of a regional hub to store data for the communities across the region. There was over 20 that were monitoring their local waterways. And that's kind of how it started. And then more and more groups kind of started getting wind of DataStream and started monitoring data and adding data to the platform. And we kind of started to grow. So it was kind of soon realized that there is a lot of monitoring happening, not just in the Mackenzie River Basin, but across all of Canada by so many different groups across so many different sectors for different reasons. And all of this data is going to be collected differently, formatted differently, and stored differently, which can sometimes make it a little tricky to find and interpret when you're kind of jumping across these groups. So that's kind of where DataStream came into the picture. And today we're not just in the Mackenzie River Basin, we spread across the country. We're one portal, but we have 5 regional hubs that we focus our efforts in, and hundreds of monitoring groups and data sets, and yeah, tens of thousands of monitoring sites. So now we're our own initiative, we're the DataStream Initiative, which is our own charity, but we're still tightly partners with the Gordon Foundation as well as other regional partners listed there. And what's important to note is that we don't do any monitoring or we don't interpret the data. This is not our data. We don't claim it to be our data. We are simply a portal and a home for others to store their data long-term, and a place for them to ensure that their data is being used and easily transferred. So that's who we are today. And yeah, our goal is to bring the data and the people together. So we do this through our open data platform, which I'll run you through later. We do some education and training. We do a lot of work to provide guidance to stewards so that they understand maybe some best practices for data formatting and metadata and things that will make sure that their data is reusable and understandable. And then we also try our best to do community building and convening because we have kind of all these connections across sectors. We like to collaborate with other groups and make sure that they are aware of each other and what they're doing. So that's what we do. Okay, so I wanted to zoom into the Great Lakes DataStream Hub because I think that's where we are today. That's where I focus my efforts. So I'll do that. So the Great Lakes Hub is comprised of the Great Lakes Basin and then the St. Lawrence Basin as well. And in this hub, we have over 150 data sets shared from over 80 collection organizations. And what's really neat is over half of these collection organizations would be considered community-based. So while, of course, the governments are going to have the long-term data sets, probably making up the most locations and the most data points, there's a lot of community efforts happening in the region, and a lot more that are kind of being introduced to us every year. So that's kind of a cool fact about this region. And honestly, most of the hubs kind of have similar statistics to this. But there's many groups. I've just listed a few here that you may be familiar with. We have data from federal agencies, provincial governments, Indigenous nations, research agencies, conservation authorities, and of course, community volunteer groups as well. So there's kind of every kind of monitoring group you can think of likely shares data with DataStream. So it's great to learn about what's happening in the region. And then in the Muskoka region specifically, I just pulled this together where I went into our database and I pulled all the monitoring sites kind of in this region, in the Muskoka region. And as you can see, the Ontario Lake Partner Program and the District of Muskoka definitely take up a lot of space. They monitor the region greatly, but there's lots of other initiatives kind of sprinkled around. You have some DFO data sets that cross into this region. You have Ontario PWQMN, so you have a few long-term monitoring stations there. You have Lake Pulse, which is a big research project, and then a few other community groups here and there. And there's probably many more that we haven't even met yet or we're currently onboarding. So lots of activity in the region for sure. Okay, so I thought it's always good to sort of go through some key features to explain the scope of what we do, because I think that's always important. So I'll go through three things. The first is what kind of data we host. So we are a water quality data platform, which means things like lab analyzed data. So your typical kind of nutrient, metal, isotope suite. But we're also seeing more and more folks collect PFAS and pesticides data, for example. We also allow field data. So that's like pH, temperature, Secchi disk, the things that you measure right in the field with a probe. And then currently we're accepting data from surface water and sediments. So that would be from rivers, streams, wetlands, all kinds of surface water and sediment locations. And something really exciting that we're working hard to do is we're working to integrate groundwater into our portal as well, so that folks can share groundwater data as well. So that's very, very exciting, and it's been highly requested in the 9 or so years that we've been here. So that's one feature. Probably one of the most important, and something I'll come back to, is the fact that we operate in a structured and standardized format. So when I say the word schema, I basically mean a standard for data formatting. So our schema is based on the WQX standard for the exchange of water quality, which was developed by the USGS and the US EPA. And it's a very widely accepted standard for water quality data in North America. And we've amended it and kind of simplified it a little bit for DataStream. But what it essentially is just a set of rules for what fields must be included when you're uploading to DataStream, specific vocabulary for those fields, and then required metadata and important information that you can't be missing, like dates and sample fractions and units and things that you would need to make that data usable and comparable. So that's our schema. And so the idea behind the schema is then you can have two data sets that come from very different places and are probably recorded locally very differently. It might be a little tricky to sort of look at them at the same time. If they're both transformed onto DataStream, they suddenly are a little bit easier to cross-compare. They're using the same vocabulary, they're standardized, they're complete. And that's kind of the idea. And that's my job as a specialist, is to work with stewards to get their data into this form. And then finally, the last feature, which is also an area I work in quite a bit, is the fact that we want to integrate with other systems. So on the left there, you can see just a few examples of some groups who already have their data on a portal. They've already worked really hard to make their own portal and make their own standard and their own format. So it might be a lot of work for them to upload onto DataStream additionally, because they're already maintaining their own portal. So what we offer to those groups is automated integrations, which essentially just means in the back end, we can pull data off their platform, transform it, and load it onto DataStream so that both portals are up to date at the same time and they point to each other. And so by doing that, hopefully this data is leveraged in two different places, and folks that are on DataStream know that it exists, and folks that are on those like host portals know that DataStream exists. So we have lots and lots of integrations, and just a few are listed on the left. And then in the other direction, we also have an API, which is essentially just a fancy tool of grabbing data all at once using the computer. So if you are somebody that has a visualizing tool or a modeling tool or a report that you want to pull data across many data sets, you can use the API for that. And I'll get into that a little bit later as well. So those are kind of the main features of the portal and what we technically want to do with it. Okay, so now it's a lot easier to just go into the platform and look at it with you. So I thought we could do that. Hopefully your screen is big enough, but I'll do my best. So there's kind of two ways that you can find data on the platform. The first is via just a DOI. So every data set is going to have a DOI link, which will bring you right to that data set. So the District of Muskoka will have their own DOI link. The other option is via our portal page, where you can go to the entire portal and see all of the points that are available. So I'm going to go to my internet. Let's see if this works. Hopefully you're now seeing an internet page. Cool. So yeah, so this is Great Lakes DataStream. If you click Explore Data, now this is where I hope that my internet is working as I'm doing all this screen sharing. There we go. This is a map of all the monitoring sites across all the data sets in the Great Lakes. So if I was somebody just coming and interested in what's happening in my region, you could do a few things. In the top left here, there's a drop-down filter where you can filter by organization, for example. So I always find this is helpful just to kind of scroll through quickly and see who's monitoring in the region. If you see a group that you're interested in, like Parks Canada, that's interesting, you could click Parks Canada, and then you can see on the left here all of the data sets that organization collects. Another way to search is just by kind of zooming in on the map. So if I wanted to search a specific region, for example, I could zoom in, and you can kind of see the points are getting more and more specific. And then again, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this depending on how big your screen is, but if you click on a site that you're interested in, it will tell you which data set it belongs to. So this site is monitored by the Lake Partner Program. Unsurprisingly, we're probably going to hit a lot of Lake Partner Program in this region. And then you can, again, oh, I'm interested in this. Who monitors this site? Oh, that's a Lake Partner Program as well. So and then you could click on this data set and explore the entire data set. So that's the Explore map. There's a lot of other kind of filtering options that you can do, but I always recommend starting at the organization level because I think that gives a good idea of who's monitoring what. Additionally, like I said, every data set has this thing called a DOI, which is a permanent link that will always bring you back to the data set. So if you were to save this DOI for the District of Muskoka, you would always come back to their data sets. And every data set page is going to look the same with just kind of a quick summary of what the data set is, a person that you could reach out to if you have questions, an upload, who uploaded the data, is the program ongoing or is it a complete program, a citation. So the data is published with attribution, meaning if somebody uses this data set in a publication, they should attribute the data set and make sure that the steward is getting credit. And then lots of other kind of, relevant fields that you might be interested in. So once you're at a data set page, you found the data set you want, you're interested, you can download that table in the DataStream format, or you can map and visualize the data set. So if I were to map and visualize the data set, I go to a graph. I can toggle from the graph to a map. So this pink button in the bottom left toggles between map and graph. And what I always recommend with a big data set like this is to zoom in on the region you're interested in and just select those points. So if I was interested, in these 3 spots, I would highlight them, and now only those points are highlighted, and I can go back to my map, or my graph, sorry, and now you can plot those points over time. And you can see there's some dotted lines for this particular data set. That's because we have available for some of our parameters these CCME or US EPA guidelines. And they're basically just, we have the option to display national guidelines for the protection of aquatic life. And you can toggle them on and off depending on whether they're relevant for you or not. You can also drop down and select, okay, I was interested in pH, but now I'm interested in organic carbon, DOC. So you can toggle between your parameters and plot. We also have an explainer tab that you can click on to, especially for partners that maybe aren't scientists or aren't field workers, they might be interested in why are we even monitoring this and what is it and why does it matter? So these are kind of high level explainers of the parameter you're looking for. And we have a whole bunch that are free on our website that you can read, and even actually I have one right in front of me. I don't know if you can see me, but little books that we also sometimes bring to events that have all this printed on them. So similarly, if I was looking at pH, I could go to the explainer and just at a very high level understand pH. So that's kind of the visualizer. At a whole, you can zoom into the points that you're interested in, plot them. It's just the raw data. We're not going to do any interpretation, but you can then pull that data if you want to create your own interpretation products, and we're happy to help with that. Okay, so that's the idea of the visualizer. It's a way that if you don't want to download the whole table and you just want to quickly glance at a point or even just look at what parameters are available, you can jump to this visualizer page first. So I went through that pretty quickly, but I'm happy to answer questions at any point. So I'll jump back here. So yeah, those are always the two ways I recommend starting, and I'm always happy to jump on a private call just to do this with you one-on-one if anyone has questions. Okay, I quickly mentioned this is a little high level, but we do, like I mentioned, have an API as well. This is a great way to pull data across data sets. So what we just did is we looked at one data set at a time, but there are many researchers that are interested in data across regions and across data sets. So the API is super helpful because you can make queries and then pull information across all of Canada. So for example, I might want to look at, hey, I want to know all of the collection organizations on DataStream and their abstracts, and I want to pull that from the Northwest Territories. You could query that on the API. Or I want a list of all the locations and coordinates that have mercury data available in all of Canada. Or I want to pull all of the available temperature data from lakes and ponds from a specific place at a specific time. So that's where the API is useful. And a lot of researchers, for example, would like the API because they can pull it into their research tools. So that's the API. It's a little complicated, but I'm happy to help if anyone has any questions. Yeah, we're not a huge team. About half of us are in this photo, and we're all on the data specialist team. And our whole job is to work with you, with the stewards, with the communities to help them with portal training, with data formatting and data retrieval so that people can get what they need when they need it. So we are here to help, and that's we love kind of learning from each of the stewards and them bringing their new perspectives to us. Okay, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of maybe go through at the end of this. We have a lot of data, so how are we starting to see it used? We've grown quite quickly, so we're starting to see the data actually be used. So I wanted to go through a few use cases of how we're starting to see data to action. So the first is research and new data products. So researchers often will come to DataStream and pull data. And this was a really exciting piece for us. We learned last year that a study published in Nature by some DFO researchers combined data across open data sets. And this included over 70 data sets from Atlantic and Mackenzie DataStream. And they cited each of the groups individually, as they should. So we were able to go, and many of these groups were community groups. So we were able to go back to these community groups who had worked so hard and in the field to volunteer their time to collect this data. And we were able to say, look, somebody used your data and it was used in this data product that will likely be used, in research across Canada. So that was an exciting use case. And we were able to kind of go back to the stewards and show them that their data was getting used. We're also seeing some modeling tools use DataStream data. This is just one of several modelers that use DataStream. This is a modeling tool that incorporates DataStream data to analyze trends in water quality, flow, and climate. So Threats is used by companies like EPCOR, which is in Edmonton, Alberta. And it's a predictive model that can determine trends in the future. So they use DataStream because it's a lot easier to pull from one portal than it is to go to 100, let's say. So again, it's exciting to see that data is being used in modeling tools. This is not a very common use case, but we have been at least once or twice been approached by journalists who are interested in some sort of environmental issue. And because, again, they don't have to go to each individual organization and get their data by email, it's already open and easy to read and download. They can report on things like road salt or salinity or whatever question that may be asking. And then watershed reporting, that's a big one that we're seeing as well. So the Lake Winnipeg Foundation is one of our partners, and they use data collected through their own community-based monitoring network to identify persistent hotspots of phosphorus across the Lake Winnipeg Basin. And they publish these amazing watershed-based reports to their public, and then they transparently post the raw data on DataStream. So they kind of have these two sides. They have the kind of analyzed, summarized version in the report, and then they have the pure raw data on DataStream. And therefore, the monitoring is used not only for the reports, but for other things like modeling or research or whatever you might have. So that's a great example of a use case there. And then a timely example is national watershed assessment. So Water Ranger, who we work quite closely with, recently published the watershed reports for Canada, where they essentially analyzed the health of sub-watersheds across Canada. So they looked at water quality, water flow or quantity, invertebrates, and fish. And for water quality, they pulled almost 80% of the data from DataStream, which again, I think hopefully made their efforts a little bit easier because they didn't have to go to 120 different groups. They instead could use the API and pull the data across the groups. And then of course, we went back to the groups to tell them, hey, look, your data was used in these national assessments. And they were able to directly go to Water Rangers and give feedback or ask questions or what might have you. It was a great way to kind of connect data users with data collectors. So that was a really exciting kind of national assessment that we saw come out recently. Okay, so what's next for us? Looking ahead, there's so many things that we can do, but in the immediate future, we of course hope to grow and support our user community. So that means finding people who might want to share their data publicly and supporting them, or folks that have already uploaded their data, like the District of Muskoka, supporting them with data additions. We always like to explore new regional partnerships and be helpful where we can and provide resources where we can. We're developing new platform features. Everything that we do comes from feedback from the public. So we love feedback and we always write it down, and we're small, but we do our best to implement as many requests as we can. I mentioned groundwater data. That's another exciting kind of feature that we're hoping to add. Scaling up integrations. I personally have seen a lot more groups start to have their own portals. So if it's helpful to them to integrate with DataStream, we will work with them to do that. And then showcasing data to action. So we're constantly kind of keeping our ear on the ground, trying to learn about where the data is being used, how the data is being useful, and then bringing that back to the community so that they understand the value of the data that they're collecting, which hopefully can like inspire more funding or bring more volunteers to their team. And yeah, open data is definitely a team sport, and collaboration is very much key. There's a ton of more people probably I could add to this list, but we have a lot of partners and collaborators and supporters that help us kind of do what we do. So I have to acknowledge them. And with that, I'll thank you. That's my email. You can find me on the website, and I'm always happy to hop on a quick call. I find that one call is worth 100 emails sometimes. So happy to hop on a call if you have any questions. Yeah, I'll stop there.